In our last episodes, we explored how Germany's ambitions reached the jungles of Africa and the ports of Asia. But perhaps nowhere was Berlin's overseas gamble more audacious or more fateful than in the crumbling Ottoman Empire. This is road to destruction, the World Wars. At the heart of this relationship was a grand project, a railway stretching from Berlin to Baghdad. This steel artery symbolized Germany's rising power and the Ottomans' desperate search for support. But it also exposed the Ottoman heartlands to European intrigue, igniting rivalries that would soon drag empires into war. By the late 19th century, the Ottomans were known as the sick man of Europe. Defeats by Russia, revolts in the Balkans, and humiliations at the hands of Britain and France left the empire tottering. Vast debts forced Istanbul to hand over control of customs and revenues to European creditors through the Ottoman Public Debt Administration, effectively putting the empire's finances under foreign control. Yet the Ottomans still held immense strategic value. They controlled the vital crossroads between Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the routes to India and the Persian Gulf. Whoever influenced the Ottoman sultans could tilt the balance of power. While Britain and France carved up Africa and Asia, Germany looked east. Bismarck had kept Germany out of Ottoman affairs, but after his dismissal in 1890, Kaiser Wilhelm II embraced a new vision, Weltpolitik. He dreamed of transforming Germany into a world power, and the Ottomans, with their geopolitical position, seemed a perfect partner. Berlin offered what the Ottomans needed most: military expertise, loans, and technology. By the 1890s, German officers were training the Ottoman army, German engineers were modernizing Ottoman artillery, and German banks were financing Ottoman infrastructure. This new relationship promised mutual benefit, but it also gave Berlin unprecedented influence in Istanbul. The crown jewel of German-Ottoman cooperation was the Berlin-Baghdad Railway. Conceived in the 1890s and launched in 1903, this railway aimed to connect Germany's industrial heartland with the Persian Gulf, a route that would bypass the British-controlled Suez Canal and deliver German goods directly to Asia. For the Ottomans, the railway promised to bind the fractious empire together, strengthening control over distant provinces in Anatolia, Mesopotamia, and the Arabian deserts. For Germany, it opened the possibility of trade, resource extraction, and a strategic route to challenge British supremacy. But to Britain and Russia, it looked like a dagger pointed at their colonial interests. The British feared German access to the Persian Gulf and India. The Russians worried it would tilt the balance in the Caucasus and Central Asia. Every mile of track laid heightened international tensions. Railways were just one part of the growing German-Ottoman bond. German firms sold the Ottomans modern rifles, artillery, and warships. German officers, including the famous Colmar von der Goltz, reorganized Ottoman military academies and advised the sultans on defense. Wilhelm II's personal interest in the empire turned these ties into something resembling an alliance in waiting. His visits to Istanbul and Jerusalem in 1898 showcased Germany's new role as a protector of the Ottomans and of Muslims worldwide. The Kaiser styled himself as a friend of Islam, hoping to rally Muslim opinion against Britain and France. The railway and Germany's growing influence set off alarm bells across Europe. Britain scrambled to counter German moves with its own railway concessions in Persia. France pressured Istanbul to grant its companies economic privileges. Russia watched uneasily, fearing that Germany would use the Ottomans as a wedge to project power into the Caucasus and the Black Sea. By the early 20th century, the Ottomans found themselves pulled between rival empires offering loans, weapons, and threats. But of all these suitors, Germany seemed the only one eager to see the Ottoman Empire survive, at least as long as it served Berlin's interests. What began as investment and military aid soon created a deep interdependence. By the eve of the First World War, the Ottoman army's reliance on German officers and munitions made it almost impossible to remain neutral if Germany went to war. The Berlin-Baghdad railway, envisioned as an economic lifeline, became a symbol of German ambition and Ottoman vulnerability. The same steel tracks meant to carry trade would one day carry armies. In our next episode, Wilhelm and the Sultan, the Road to Alliance, we explore how the personal relationship between Kaiser Wilhelm II and the Ottoman sultans, the rise of the Young Turks, and a series of diplomatic maneuvers finally cemented an alliance that would reshape the Great War. This is Road to Destruction, the World Wars.